buddy. Wow, buddy.
Whoa, no there.
That's good. Okay, then we go here. That goes there. And then this goes here. And here. And here. And I go over here. And I go over here. And I go here. And I go here. So, hey guys, welcome. It's the podcast.
Yo.
I have to do one
It
quick
is.
thing before we officially. I mean, we're live.
Wow.
But I was like, oh boy, I'm ready to go, full focus. And I'm like, no, I haven't made the voting document yet. So that's a little important. It
I guess
definitely
while you're
doesn't-
doing that, we could start with the what we've been up to's.
Well, I actually have a thing. I wanted to actually pick up on a discussion we had last week about something.
Boy.
So last week I mentioned that Freeran had topped Full Metal Alchemist, and I believe the sentiment was, well, we'll see how it goes. Well, the finale of Freeran's out, and it's currently sitting at a 9.39 on Mal. A whole 0.3 point over Brotherhood.
Episode was good.
Yeah, but like that's the entire show, so I'm excited. I will be finishing that on Thursday when I have free time to do. I will be finishing Freerun, binging Solo Leveling. Because I have not gotten to watch any of that because I've been a little busy. With some stuff. That has not, however, stopped me from doing other things. I don't have anything new manga-wise to talk about because everything is just solo chapters. We'll talk about JJK as a whole when Michael talks because we can actually have an up-to-date discussion. Wow! So I guess the thing I'm contractually obligated to talk about is One Piece.
Yes.
As I am, the chapter I am at is, the plan is not all go, boys. The plan may, in fact, not be good. We may, in fact, have to have a new plan. I'm in Whole Cake. I'm liking Whole Cake a lot. Hard to say if I like it better or worse than Dressrosa. It's tough. Because they do very different things. And obviously it's hard to compare two arcs where the only central character that is the same is Luffy. Oh, I got through Zoe, I guess. I should say on the pod. I got through all of Zoe. Zoe's cool. There's lots of fun stuff in there and lots of cool reveals that are neat. The cat viper likes lasagna. Whoa, wow, crazy.
I love that Zoe, when you get to it, you're like, man, this is a short arc, and then you look at it in context of the pre-New World arcs, and you're like, oh, this is the same length as, like, old One Piece arcs.
Yeah. Crazy that Elephant go hard is all I'll say. Base.
Zunisha the homie.
Zunisha is the homie, yeah.
Something I will say, Whole Cake has been really good. I'm very happy with how Sanji's been handled throughout all of it. There hasn't really been a misstep on his character. And the only reason I have to say that is because, unfortunately, Oda chooses to write Sanji going 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back every time something good happens with that character. So I'm glad he's finally almost free, maybe, forever. We'll see. Maybe he'll just go forward from here. I can only hope. I mentioned to Michael and Mason off podcast that I have, like, a very small thing that I'm like, oh, I want to talk about it because I'm not sure how I feel about it because I think Oda's bad at it. And at first, and so the thought crossed my mind entering Whole Cake. I was like, Oda's not very good at writing evil women. Because outside of and this is my point. The women he writes as evil, he draws in a very particular way, and that is probably the two most evil women I can think of who are kind of outright evil off the bat are Aldiva and Big Mom.
Yeah.
Where, like, now there are some others, because I've thought about this, because, like, Monette is, like, maybe up there, and, like, the one person under Crocodile who fights Nami. But, like, this is my point, right? Because, like, every other female character, especially from Dressrosa, and even kind of heading into Whole Cake, has been, like, oh, actually, it's either, oh, they're actually good, or...
There's a lot of, they're actually good.
Or they're heavily manipulated. And so, like, I'm starting to get in the Whole Cake, and I'm like, oh, it's really... And, like, this is the problem. Like, Big Mom has a lot of kids, so obviously there's a lot of female characters here who are bad, but you don't get to go into them to the same depth as you do any of the male antagonists. And, like, there's so many male antagonists in one... And I said, this can be chalked up maybe to, it's a pirate story. But you have women in the pirate story, so maybe let some of them just be evil. I don't know. And, like, I was going through it, and I'm like, oh, it's... like, as the story was going, I'm like, and we're doing it again with Pudding. And then, like, you get to the part in Whole Cake where it's like, but are we? And then Whole Cake continues to go, no, I think we are. So it's tough, because I'm not at the end of Whole Cake, so I can't say in relation to how I feel about Pudding. To be fair, I can't think of her name. The person who raises Big Mom, technically evil. So, like...
Mother.
Lol.
The
The witch. The child-selling witch.
It's not Ethel, because that's the one from Baldur's Gate.
No, that's the one from Baldur's Gate. That is the hag from Baldur's Gate.
Carmel.
Yeah, Carmel. Like, she is evil in what we are shown of her, but like I think even, like, Dressrosa, even, like, the most threatening female heads of like Doflamingo's family wind up turning. Most of them.
You have the one that's like half sea monk or whatever the fuck they are, but I also don't even know that character's technically female. The one with the fucking horns kicks people really hard.
Oh, I thought that was a guy.
I thought
it's certifiably a character.
It's Dellinger, right?
Yeah, Dellinger.
I don't know. I always felt. Yeah, who knows? Who can say? But it's like, I can't think of. Is it Baby? Is the one who winds up falling for the guy? Baby Five winds up falling.
Baby Five is one of the characters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which, again, inherently, that character's entire concept is structured around manipulation. So, like, very hard to even feel a way about that character, because there's very little character there. But, like, a lot of Big Mom's children, even, most of the women are good, even. You have, like, 4 of Big Mom's daughters who are all turncoats in Whole Cake.
I mean, you do have Smoothie, who is just a bad person.
Well, yeah, but those characters you don't go deep enough with, right? Like, that's my point.
Yeah.
Like, she has done, I think, nothing at the point I am at Whole Cake.
I think she's just standing there.
Brooke gets past her, and then she doesn't do anything. But it's like Sanji's sister. Like, we can't even write the Vinsmoke family woman to be wholly evil. And I get it, right? Like, I understand the dynamic. But, like, I also wish we did kind of just send it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, that's why Monette's actually kind of refreshing, because for a bit of Punk Hazard, she's a fairly deep and evil character. There's not really a moment where you're like, no, I think she could turn around. So, like, because, like, you have the daughter who's married to the head of the Fishman Pirates, turncoats. You have the one who's with Beige, turncoat. You have Lola. Lola's great. What can we say, right? Like, it just, like, Broly is maybe the next, like, most flushed out evil character, but it's more so because she's being Kazooied around the entire arc, which is wild, by the way.
That's so funny.
It is really funny that somehow there is nothing she can do. But I don't know. I'm hoping. And it's like, it's tough because I don't even know because when I think of things I've heard about Wano, I don't think strong evil female character. Especially given the structure around Wano and the society it is. We'll see.
There are things.
We'll see.
About Wano.
No, you're like female character that's evil, and my brain goes, okay, so female villains. I go, okay, so you have Miss All Sunday, turncoat. You have Perona, who's actually just a good person.
She just vibes. She just vibes.
And like, legitimately, like the best I could think of is fucking Califa from CP0.
Yeah, there's Caulifla. There's Elvita still is evil.
Yeah,
but
also vibing with Buggy
does get the hot treatment because they go she has the thing that makes her become
and also fat and when she does, she also like crap. Mellows a little. Like Boa Hancock even isn't like of the warlords, maybe the least evil.
Yeah.
Because
you learn a lot of the warlords are doing it for when you learn about like the warlords more and like random flashbacks and shit, you learn why they became warlords.
Yeah,
there's
like,
only
Bo has a very specific reason why she does it.
Bo and Jinbei both are like very particular.
Yeah.
And are very different in terms of why they're warlords. But
Mihawk's just vibing.
I guess, man. No, but like
he's just there.
It's a very small thing. Like, what am I supposed? Who am I to say to compare this to any of the other big shonens? Me and my brain, evil Naruto characters, Kaguya. I'm not. I mean, I would rather what I get in One Piece than that. So like,
my brain's like evil, and I go, no, they're all even like built. It's so funny how many shonens just do not have a character that is evil. People have to have a reason to be evil. Like, even Nagato, who's a fucking terrible person who does, like, genocides. Oh, no, but, like, people, like, hated him because he had purple eyes.
But, like, which, to be fair, for, like, the structure of One Piece and Naruto, and this is a very side tangent now, like, kind of an overarching theme is that the society above us, the generation above us, and the way they've structured society fucking sucks. Like, that is the themes. Like, that is a theme of both those stories, right? Like, so it's hard to be like, but the thing I like about Naruto and One Piece is that there are some characters that are evil. Like, you can have a character who is evil and still have them have justifiable reasons for why they decide to be an evil asshole, but they're still evil. Zabuza is still a bad guy by the time you get to the end of his arc. Like,
Doflamingo.
And that's my point, like, Dolphin's so good.
Doflamingo's definitely just an evil
Big
character,
Mom's just fucking insane. Like, she's not.
Big Mom's is also partially a nurture thing.
Yeah, she has like an entire like that. That's my thing of like she herself is maybe not an evil individual, but there is something fucking wrong with that being that is Big Mom that has caused a problem throughout the structure of her life. But no, it's very interesting. I'm enjoying it a lot. The other, I have two other things I really want to talk about. I believe Moonlit Fantasy second season is 24 episodes, so we're halfway done with it at this point. It's very good. It's supposed to be an episode. It's interesting, is all I'll say. Unwanted Undead Adventurer. 1 second, making sure I hit
That's
that
correct.
one right. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah. Unwanted Undead Adventurer. Finished its season. Its 12 episodes are out. It's really good. I really like it. It has maybe one of the best buildings of a relationship, like a romantic relationship that is also just like even if you don't want to give it that, which it kind of is, it has maybe one of the best relationships between an adult male and adult female character in a fantasy setting. The main character and I would argue the main supporting cast female character, their dynamic is fucking incredible and I love it. It is maybe the best part of that show. It also, episode 12 has a moment that is very like, oh, are we gonna end the, like, they could have made a decision that might have ended the story there. My understanding is that it's still ongoing, the source material, which is light novel. I was also very interested because I was like, man, I wonder how much there is and where I can jump into, to which I found a Reddit thread that went, I'm thinking about buying the light novel. Someone went, don't. And the reason for it is that apparently the light novels have a slight problem where they get boggled down by unnecessary exposition by the author. And the example that's given in the Reddit thread is, imagine the main character walks up to an old man who is wounded, and then he will go into a 7-paragraph explanation of why he might be wounded. And while this is really cool for world building, you know half the reasons why he's wounded already as the reader. And I'm like, I see. And it's like there is a manga version, but I would have to gauge how far that is. So that might be something I look into, or I'm just gonna have to wait an eternity to see if it has enough material to get a second season. Because it's really cool. I really like where it's going. The last episode of the show explains the main character's motivations for the entire 12 episodes of the show. You just simply don't get that explanation until the last episode. Like, you know what he wants to aspire to be, but you have a small inkling of why because they show a shot, but you don't know any of it, and you don't get his backstory. And my favorite thing is that you get into the episode, and one of the characters is like, well, you've never told me. And he goes, well, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I have told you? And she's like, well, you told me not to ask adventurers about their past, so I didn't. And he goes, I swore it would have came up at some point. And it is a little funny that is a large chunk of the last episode of the season. That's really good. Its OST does slap. This was the show that had the really cool OST last week that I talked about. It almost, I don't want to say it has it because I might be proven wrong and it might be a betrayal of your expectations, but it has what to me sounds very closely to Spanish guitar sometimes, which I know this podcast absolutely adores in its OSTs. That show's really good. Last thing I've done is I have played a little game called The Ocean's Heart, which is a Zelda-like, very much a Zelda-like, in its own self-described top-down style, even though that is not technically the art style of those Zeldas. It's like an odd, like 3/4 perspective thing. But that's a technicality argument that I was trying to read up on.
2.5D.
But some people will tell you it's not 2.5D because 2.5D means a 2D game with a 3D model, specifically, and technicalities. But again, this is not worth having a conversation about.
No.
But the Ocean's Heart, very, very much structured like a Minish Cap, a Link to the Past, like an Oracle game. You can really feel it immediately. You wake up in your house. Your small village gets attacked. Your dad goes off on a journey. You wait 6 months, then you go and follow him. You have a sword. You get bombs. You get your arrows a little late into this game, to the point where like you have pretty free roam to explore most of the overworld, like a large chunk of it. And it'll just be times where I'm like, "There's a thing for an arrow over there. When the fuck am I getting my bow?" Like you get your bombs, your boomerangs, a magic projectile deflection tool. You get the Quake medallion. But that only hits one enemy, and then as you go through the game, it upgrades to hit more enemies. Like you get all of those before you get your bow. Pretty on the main storyline, but you can pick up heavier rock medallion before you get your bow. It's so weird, and I don't know why, but that's how they do it. I have like 4 empty slots in my inventory, and like 3 empty like plot like power item slots, so I'm close to being done. Because like based on a Zelda structure, I probably have like one more kind of big story dungeon area, and then like the finale, I imagine, and then that will give me access to the last couple of things in the overworld I have to do. It has a thing that I've avoided doing because I just didn't feel like it, which is like really early in the game you can find an area that you can light different torches and they'll buff enemies and make them harder. 3 of those 4 options are already turned on. So I was like, I guess I'm just not going to turn the other one on because I don't really feel like turning the other one on right now. But like some of the achievements are centered around that, so I will fuck around with that. There's a couple of achievements in the game I was looking at where it's like get from point A to point B in this amount of time, or point A for point B without taking any damage while you have the cursed effect on, which is those like bells and the light. And I'm like, those will be fun to screw around with. I know this overworld. There are a couple of things that maybe because I am playing on a controller, it's like it's a little weird. But I'm not gonna play Zelda like not on a controller. There are like a couple of areas where you can hop from like one, like you can hop if you run off of water, you can jump over basically like a 1 block, maybe like a 1.5 block space, and if you land on another area, you get there. Well, you can do that at angles, and angles on a controller with that sort of thing are a little weird, and so there are times where I'm like, wee into the water, wee into the water, wee, like I should be able to make it. I'm like, I'm just bad at this, so I lose half my health. I'm like also like 5 heart containers away from full HP is what it seems. Again, very close to the end of this game. Its story is fine. This main character is... She's just like... She quite literally is just the... I don't like doing normal child girl things. I like to hit stuff with sword, which is fine. The game's writing is a little quirky at times, maybe a little too much so. There is a quest that you can do where you go to the mayor of a town's house as he is showing off a painting of his dog, because it's his dog's birthday, and you have to find the person who's there to steal the painting of the dog. However, instead of stealing the painting of the dog, they steal the dog, and you must chase after them to get the dog back. At which point, when you do, the dog runs away, and your main character goes, I guess the dog really wanted to get back to his birthday party. It's a little silly game. It's a good time. I'm enjoying it. There is no sword spin, like charge up spin. So like there are a couple of things that like they obviously were like, we're not doing that straight from Zelda. There's no like sword beam at full HP. So like there are noticeable differences. Also by far the biggest difference, which might make this game really, really easy, which is probably why it has the extra difficulty layer to it, is that when you destroy plants and stuff, you pick up items from it, and a lot of those are just healing items. So like you get to like 2 HP and you could just pause the game and pop like 7 and you're back to full HP. So there's not a lot of things that are threats, and also like it's a Zelda-like. So if you die, you just get booted to the start of the room. So it's like you can brute force a lot of fights that maybe you're not supposed to do, because it's a Zelda-like. But I've been enjoying it. There are a couple of odd items that I'm like, that's weird. So there's a barricade on there's a physical wooden barricade on the overworld map. What do you think you might use to get past that barricade?
Fire.
That you might think fire would do it. So in the game, you have a candle item that you can throw that then like runs around like kind of like a bomb shoe and explodes and does a bunch of fire. And if you hit like plants with it, it chains. That doesn't get rid of it. You get a spear as like a secondary like equipable item that you can poke. And eventually you'll get a spear that lights on fire. That doesn't do it. Your bombs don't do it. Your magical bombs don't do it. In fact, I don't know what the fuck your magical bombs do. So none of that does it. Your screen like Thunderstrike doesn't do it. Instead, what destroys these barricade is a flail you get later in the game that keeps you stationary but spins around you and destroys like large structural like objects in the overworld that just largely happen to be wooden barricades. Now that I've said this, I remember a location on the map I have to go back to destroy one of those wooden barricades. See, this is why I like these kinds of games, because my brain's like, I have to go back here to finish the thing. There's also like a seemingly like abyss pit thing you can go down into that like is maybe like a kind of Pit of 100 Trials-esque like big fight dungeon. It wouldn't open when I first found it, because it's just in the well of a random town. So I don't know yet about that. We're gonna find out. But I got the achievement for finding the abyss, so that sounds fun. I had a good time. I've had a good time with this. I've played 2 play sessions of this game that are like 4 hours each, and this is about where I am. But yeah, it's a nice little thing. What have you guys been up to?
I've been playing more Baldur's Gate 3. I'm trying to finally finish that game up. I'm
One
close.
day.
I'm close. I have 2/3 of the big bads before the big bad, but I gotta do like the hardest fight in the game still and some other stuff.
Which one did you do for the second one, mommy or daddy? Because I know you felt like you were the one who said you felt like you were kind of trapped, right?
I beat the male one that remains.
Daddy.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured it out that I actually wasn't. I was just stupid. But,
Okay. Well, I figured that was the case, but I was gonna let you. Well, no, because I just think that game's good enough that it's not gonna soft lock you into like you have to go do this.
It's just weird with how things worked out, but
yeah.
But yeah, and I just got back from Chicago this week where I went and saw Otto in concert. Hence the T-shirt. It's really sick. Also, Otto, fucking amazing show, absolutely insane. Live.
Did it start with "Welcome to my show"?
No, it didn't. It like closed with it.
Oh.
Which was awesome.
It's really funny contextually.
It originally closed with it, and then they had an encore of 3 songs as well. But it opened with fucking it actually opened with one of the songs from One Piece movie. I think we went through 5 of the 6 songs in the movie. Basically every Otto song you can think of that was done. The concert went for like 2 hours, like 2 which is sick. Setup basically because Otto is like a person who's very particular about their identity. Basically you can see like the band on the sides, and then there's like a little like cage in the middle, like a box, and she performs inside of there as like a silhouette basically. But you can see cool. Like the body moving and stuff. It's just there's not enough light that you can see anything distinctive. And they restrict access to phones, cameras, binoculars, everything basically. To the point that like if they detect that like someone's using their phone because they have like them in special cases, they literally will just put a curtain up and you just no more show, like no more Otto. You can see the band and the visuals, but no Otto. No, and their vocal range is fucking insane. Like it's just absolutely not fair or balanced. But yeah, that was fun. I went with a bunch of friends. Got back today, watched some shows. That's about it. I haven't done much. Also, I have an offer that got accepted in the house, but that's
Let's go.
Let's go.
So we'll see.
You reminded me for no particular reason at all. You talking just reminded me I missed one thing. Which is last Thursday I played D&D, which you can check over at the Deadly D&D channel that's linked in the description of all of the live streams. And we finished the Lost Mines portion of Lost Mines of Phandelver. So we are now entering the Shattered Obelisk. So that'll be fun. So we did that. Yeah, I don't have too much to say. You should watch those if you like D&D and have time, because they're all live streamed over there, and then that means they're VODed. Smile.
True.
So this Thursday marks the start of the Shattered Obelisk. So that'll be 8 p.m. on Thursday, EST time. Who wants to go next, Mason or Michael?
I can go.
Mason beat 2 games.
So
at least.
So last night, that was last night, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Last night, I beat 999 Virtue's Last Reward, or Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward. That game's really good. Uchikoshi's batshit insane, and I got really mad for the last hour of that game.
Mason got mad, closed the game, and I went, Mason, you're not allowed to do that. We have more. You're not allowed.
I did it entirely for the bit.
You did, but I was like, if he's doing it now, we're gonna have problems.
And then I started up Zero Time Dilemma, which is one of the games of all time. I'm enjoying it, but it is certainly one of the games of all time.
So, John, for your context, to give some context to you, 999 visual novel involves escape room, door puzzles. VLR,
all the good stuff.
Visual novel, escape room puzzles, also has like a voting game in it that is meant to put you against your allies and cause things to happen. ZTD structure is also a visual novel, maybe more so than any of the other
It
two.
is the most visual novel out of the three.
The most visual novel.
But its
Yes.
its structure, still like escape room puzzles. But everything revolves around making choices. You get given an option, and then you must make a choice. You must decide. And so Mason got the first decision of the game. Would you like
Which
to
one
talk
was?
about it, Mason?
Yeah, so the great thing about how this game starts is it is just the main villain walks up to everyone in cages and goes, I'm gonna flip this coin. It has a red side and a blue side. If you get it right, everyone gets to go. You're gonna lose your memory of this
Oh, cool,
happening,
yeah.
and nothing is going to change.
That's great.
If the red side, or if you get it wrong, you're going to play this game where you won't be able to get out until at least 6 of you are dead.
Of the 9 main
Well,
characters.
Of the
that's
9
very
people
less
here.
fun. That's a lot less fun.
The first, and you have everyone like shouting at the person who chooses, going, "No, pick the red side. No, pick the blue side."
Yeah.
And I went with, a character that I know, that I trust immensely, told me to go with this route. I'm going with this route, and it's the blue side that came up, and I went, okay, it's gonna be that. And then the game just ends.
You have a tiny conversation afterwards where everyone's like,
Yeah.
this feels weird. Like something should have happened. Oh, the dog's here. Neat.
And then credits roll.
Credits.
Quite literally.
It was really
It's
funny.
so
We got into booting the game, and Michael's like, "Yeah, this is the shortest of the 3." And then Mason rolls credits in the first 5 minutes. He goes, "Wow, you weren't fucking kidding."
Yeah, really
So
fucking silly.
Yeah.
I think it has
It's
the
great.
least amount of endings, technically, in terms of visual.
Which is
That
wild.
might not be. That
it might have the same amount of 999. 999 doesn't have a lot of those symbols.
Yeah, it's an odd technicality because 999 has one that gets replaced on its wheel once you it'll disappear after you get it and you do the proper one instead. But also ZTT has some funky ones. No game will ever have as many endings as VLR.
VLR has so many endings. But yeah, and then I did that. I also got through one of the endings of Bloodstained in my one session of playing that game. Yeah, I fully completed that game the first time I sat down to play it, because it's not a particularly long game if you just rush to the end. There certainly was a short section where for a solid hour and a half I was running around the castle going, what the fuck am I doing? What do I need to do?
Is that the part where you need to go underwater?
No, that is after. So the bit where you go underwater is after the first ending. It's
okay.
really funny.
Because that is where it got me, because to do so you need to get a shard from a particular enemy that is not always guaranteed to get it, and it gives you a mobility tool that is not set to your mobility shard. It is instead just a random power shard. It's a little bit of an whoopsie.
Yeah, it's really dumb that it's under the passives.
Yeah.
Or no, it's under the directionals.
Yeah, it's a directional.
Which is really dumb.
Because the idea is that you don't get access to the thing that lets you actually move underwater yet. So what you have to do is you have to use the enemy that sprays water, and you have to use its directional ability to push yourself under the water and through it.
Yeah, to get yourself to the actual enemy that allows you to walk underwater, which is really weird. But yeah, no, the part that I got stuck at was, because I didn't have an issue with that part. I just thought it was really dumb once I got the shard.
Yeah.
Because I am a little goblin and had to get a shard from every enemy I came across ever. Because you allow me to get a new power every time I kill an enemy a certain random chance number of times. I'm going to do it for every enemy.
Yeah.
No, the part that I got stuck at was after you kill the twin snake tower boss that chases you, it doesn't tell you what you need to do. It's just there's a train, I should go there. And then when you go to the train, it goes, you need an item to get through here. and it doesn't tell you how to get that item.
Yeah.
I had to look it up and go, oh, I need to go to the librarian.
Yep.
Okay, why? Fuck it, I guess.
Man, does that tower fight still kind of run a little bit like ass?
Yeah, no, it wasn't too bad.
Was it
actually.
too bad?
See, but also like the game just kind of ran like ass entirely anyways.
Fair.
For me.
It's a very pretty
Like,
game.
It's a very pretty game, but like it ran the same whether I was running on epic or low, so it didn't matter. It was just like occasionally I would just have frame loss, or like the game would slow down to a crawl for like 2 seconds and then go back to normal. So like I just got used to it.
There is I will say there is a post-ending one, like late end game boss that notoriously can cause crashes if certain things happen. I don't think you'll run into an issue. It's a boss that is centered around your money amount, and it can accidentally put a little too many things on screen, and cause the game to slow down so much that it crashes.
Very cool.
I don't think I've ever had it happen, so I wouldn't be too worried about it.
I haven't gotten that one. I did do the fight that's... It looks like you're in an Egyptian pyramid, and it's a circle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of status effects.
Yeah, that
and
fight...
I hated it.
That fight is something that I've gotten a little better at with time. But boy, antidotes go burr.
Yeah, I mean, I had the fully upgraded anti-poison one.
Yeah.
And that helps, but also he can hit you with curse, and that's just annoying as shit.
So curse in Bloodstained cuts your health pool. It locks it so that you don't have your mana. Yeah.
It just cuts it in half, and then it'll eventually go away after like 30 seconds, but it still leaves you at half health. So it's super cool and definitely not annoying, we promise.
No, never.
Boy, is this game's writing by the guy who made the DS and GBA Castlevanias, Mason.
Mm-hmm, it certainly is. Also, it's really wild to me because one of the other things that I've been doing is I've been watching more Boruto. I'm like decently far into it now. But also, one of your main shopkeepers is voiced by a voice actor who also does one of the main characters in Boruto.
Okay.
The alchemist in Bloodstained is voiced by the same guy who does Mitsuki in Boruto. And it's just really weird where I quite literally went from watching Boruto to going, yeah, I have this game downloaded, I might as well, and just hearing the same voice.
You're like, I know this.
Okay. But yeah, aside from that, watching more Boruto, I'm now through the fight.
Yep.
That was really good.
The Momoshiki fight?
Yeah, the Momoshiki fight.
So fucking good.
Taijutsu is just so fucking cool.
Which, by the way, we talk about the Momoshiki fight. The entry into that fight is also maybe one of the best moments in that show.
It's so good.
Naruto just going, okay, I'm in my house? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, Boruto's been really good. I'm excited to watch more of that. I also watched 7 episodes of Pet, which is one of the shows of all time. I enjoy it. It's weird, and it's something.
It is not hard to see how that show did not do well on the
Yeah,
podcast. Because honestly, I don't know how well it would do on the podcast even today.
No,
because the quality of shows is so much better.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know if Pet can hold a candle to some of the stuff we watch now. But it's cool.
Yeah.
It has a lot of neat things in it.
It's neat. It's a show that is very hard to like wrap your head around. Even while you understand the mechanics, you're just like, okay, but you're using a lot of weird terminology very quickly, and also like, I don't know what side anyone's on at this point. All I know is that Katsuragi's an asshole.
I do remember that.
That's all it is. He's a murderous asshole that just wants to kill everybody.
Warning about that show, if anyone is like, oh, what's this show called Pet? One, I think it's on Amazon Prime.
I don't know. I couldn't find it myself.
It's on some weird platform.
Yeah.
that you normally wouldn't go for anime. But also like one, large content warning for like that
Yeah.
whole show, and two, just there is most likely even like not even content warning. There's just gonna be some visuals that are just uncomfortable. Or might
Yes.
instill absolute terror in you. That show is woo.
Yeah, that show definitely handles some subject matter that isn't okay.
No,
Um,
I don't think it
and
handles it too horribly.
it doesn't
though.
handle it badly. But it also just makes some decisions on like what they show on screen where you're just like, you really could have just not. But I'm still enjoying it. I'm going to finish it out sometime this week and give my actual thoughts on it probably next week's podcast. But
Oh boy, Mason! When you're done with this, at some point, I need to get at least you. Also maybe Michael, because I don't think Michael ever got to the end of this show. I might be the only human alive who's finished Babylon. And
I
do intend on
I got
watching
to
that as well.
where it did the giant break.
yeah, and Michael knows my opinion about Babylon is, whew, boy, that
What's
show.
crazy
Which,
is that its first 7 episodes are some of the greatest anime I've ever watched.
if you can get past the main crux of the show, which can be a
Fair.
very difficult thing to go. Like for me, it was very much a I want to know what you're doing with this, and you better fucking do something with it, because the crux of Babylon, is a portion of Japan is trying to legalize suicide, which means, content warning, it's a lot of suicide in that show. Additionally, a character is backing the group who wants to legalize suicide, who is an absolute brutal murderer. That's the show that has a 5-second OP.
It's one of them.
It's one of the shows of all time.
Yeah. What else have I done? I also play D&D. I knew this beforehand, but this week really cemented for me that monks are broken in half. As a level 8 monk, I was soloing a full blown adult black dragon this week, with no one's help really, aside from like a couple of guards who occasionally did something. But my entire party was in a rope tricked pocket dimension for most of it.
Let's go.
That sounds like our party.
Yeah. Vis's
Rope
character
should be a
got
level 2 spell.
Vis's character got put down to 1 health really early on in the fight, and then Kuru's character did the rope trick to get him out of it, and then Kuru also went in there.
Yo, did you know that Gloomstalker Ranger automatically prepares rope trick?
Yes. That's what Kuru's character is.
I'm not surprised. I don't know why else you'd have rope trick.
That spell's also insane. Like,
Situationally, yes.
Rope Trick is arguably the strongest level 2 spell in the game.
yes.
I got out of
Situationally, yes.
If you use it... Sorry, it makes you fucking invisible for an hour. An undetectable invisibility in place.
And
That's crazy.
It doesn't stop when you leave it either. It's just there.
Yeah.
Me, when I got kidnapped, went into a rope trick, they went, how the fuck did they leave? And as they're searching for me, I left behind them. Because then I actually casted invisibility and ran out.
So, yeah, that happened. I also played Marvel Tabletop RPG again. That's been a very fun time because I'm playing a character that has led a team before in canon in comics by this point, of where the sessions take place. And I'm dealing with several new heroes, or heroes that are not from this reality. They're from a different multiverse. My character has to be the asshole who tells people when they're being fucking stupid. Such as one of our characters going to an enemy organization that we're trying to sneak into and giving them their first and last name.
Mason,
Makes sense in character.
Mason, that's weird. That's every character I've ever played in D&D's job. That's wild. How does that happen?
Little different when there's comic canon.
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense for them in character. I'm not trying to diss the person playing. Just in character, my character thinks they're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been fun. I'm trying to think of what else I've done.
You should read Green Green Greens.
I should. I absolutely should. I did read this week's chapter of Chainsaw Man today.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was just kind of there.
Things
Oh,
happen.
Things did happen.
That last panel has a really funny line on it,
Yeah,
where
that it does.
where Asa gets called Chainsaw Man's woman, which,
Yep.
which is very funny. JJK happened.
I don't think I've read this week's JJK.
Oh
I
no,
might have.
we can't talk about the funny thing Michael
No,
and I
hold
think
on.
should happen. This is
Hold on, I
this is
think
the
I
week
did.
with JJK's Katana Man. It's his fight.
I don't think I actually read that then. Hold on. I can read that.
Well, Michael can talk
Well-
about some things while you catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't
Yeah,
read
I could talk about the fact that I read, I think doing the math, about 170 to 180 chapters of manga this week.
Michael does this sometime.
See, some manga is really good, and I read it quickly. Such as, I think last week I was at about chapter 190-ish of JJK. I'm now caught up at chapter 254. God, is JJK just go off the fucking rails?
So, Michael, do you agree with me? Well, I want. So I'm gonna say something. I want to know how you feel about what I'm gonna say. I don't want to know whether or not you necessarily agree. When the group meets Angel, I feel like a significant amount of the story just disappears. Like there is a large gap of time we just don't get to see. Did you feel that way? When they start to make the plan with Angel.
Well, I get, because the idea is that there we have a really big time skip also, or right around that point, I think.
But why? That's what I don't get.
Isn't that just the training time skip, or is there a different time skip, a different Angel meetup that I'm thinking?
It's when they're all it's everybody is still in their right bodies, is all I'll say. They meet up with Angel.
This is before I'm thinking.
It's before Megumin's sister wakes up. And it's it just feels like so much happens, in the realm of the killing. But that's the problem. It's it just just feels like a really odd hard cut to that collection. The gang's just all together.
I don't remember feeling the only time there's a really big jump in time is post the Goofy happening, and they have the month-long time skip or whatever.
How do you feel about the sexual tension between the King of Curses and the Queen of Curses? Well, no, that's Rika. That's Rika technically. So the other one.
That was something. God, greatest JJK character of all time is Funny Joke Man.
He's so
Funny
good.
Joke Man,
He's
my
so
hero.
good.
Do any of us know his name?
No.
I
That
can
might
barely
be-
remember. I can barely remember important characters' names.
That might be the best thing about it. Is not only is he a great character, none of us know his fucking name, and that might be on point for his character too. I almost want to say it's a T name.
My issue's I don't. I could only tell you Katana Boy's name because he was important this episode. I couldn't have told you it, or this chapter. I couldn't have told you it for the past 100 chapters since he's been in the story.
There's some characters who are really easy to remember, but
Yeah, and then, because you have the characters who have been here the whole time. So yes, I'm never forgetting Yuji Itadori.
you also have the odd set of characters who get introduced in the calling game and whose names all sound the fucking same. So I can't remember jack shit
there's
about
a bunch
them.
of hoopla. Yeah, I couldn't tell you Lightning User's name. They're Lightning person.
And his name's close to 3 other characters from that time period. It's not distinct enough for me, but the character's cool.
Akari is immensely based as well, but I already mentioned that. Akari's really cool. His powers are those things where because they throw a lot of info at you, it feels a lot more complicated than it is. It's literally
Probably.
just he rolls pachinko, And if he wins on odds, he has a higher chance next time. If he wins on evens, he rolls faster next time. That's literally it. That's his entire power. Except like sometimes he gets golden doors, which means he has a higher chance on that specific Ricci, because Ricci means he
He's
gets two of the
just
things
bullshit.
Yeah, it's just a whole bunch.
You
I don't
have
know
to
how
stop him before he gets rolling.
It probably makes sense if you've played a pachinko machine.
Yeah,
Because it probably just is a pachinko machine.
I like to think the effect that that trying to understand Hikari's domain has on us is what happens when you start getting addicted to pachinko machines.
Maybe.
Where there
But
is
yeah,
no escape, and you do not understand why.
Do we want to go into the big yoinky splinky spoiler?
I think it's so funny to talk about. I think you should talk about the thing you were saying to me about. So like, we're gonna spoil the last panel of the newest chapter of JJK real quick.
I did just finish it, so.
So a character shows up, and I ran into Michael in person, and he had a thing to tell me about Miguel.
Hey, yeah, so it was a funny, but I don't remember where I saw it. It was either on the subreddit on a tweet or on like a tweet, and someone made a joke. It's like, wouldn't it be really funny if next episode is hard cuts to Miguel at the airport?
And I said, and then
like,
imagine
that'd be fucking hilarious.
and I was like, and imagine if like we spend the whole chapter with him at the airport, and you cut back, and he's just fucking wasted. You don't get to see anything of the fight. I think it's really funny because I was actually legitimately thinking about Miguel in relation to JJK, because I was like, man, it's so like he really does have to remove Yuta from the story for so long because he's too powerful, and I'm like, right, Yuta was with Miguel to try to help get the thing to break Gojo free. What the fuck happened with that plot point? And then Miguel just shows up this week. I'm like, oh, here he is.
Yo, what up?
I stand by the fact that I think my theory about a certain character coming back is on point, because at this point we're throwing fucking everything to the wall in JJK. Everybody's gonna be here.
It's like Smash
All I'm
Ultimate.
saying.
Everyone is here.
They weren't at the airport.
There were no one out in any airport.
Also, we have the yoinky splinky coat of, hey, we're bamping you off to go get healed to probably come back again.
Yeah.
Like,
At this point, I'm just ready for Sukuna to like hyper dash across the field to go find their healer and just murder her.
fucking finally I can stop this. And
God
then
damn it!
Gojo's
There's
just there, and it's
there's
like, God
Shoko.
damn it. And it's just like
Nah,
infinite.
I'd
He's
win.
like, fucking Christ.
I was telling Michael,
I'd
I don't know how this manga ends. But Michael, what else? You've read some other things. What else have you done?
Yeah, trip on a rock and just die.
So I kept up with all my weeklies. I got my blue box, my undead unlock, my
Yo, Blue Box is getting
Kanebanashi.
animated.
Yeah, I don't know how. I said this to Mason. I think the main female, because of the art style of the anime doesn't do good for her design. Like the way Koji Miura specifically does his. I said like the reason I looked over is that I have the first 4 volumes of it, and I was trying to remember the artist's name. He has like a very rough style that he draws in, and I think it's a very distinct to them, and I think it enhances the designs of these characters a lot. And in the anime, they kind of lose some of that charm.
We can only hope they'll try to bring out that style in really important moments.
Yeah, and even then, the writing in the manga is really good. It's crazy. It's just really good romance. It's really well written. It's gotta be good. Like, it's a romance where the end goal isn't the romance portion. That's just kind of a thing that happens along the way.
It's just a bonus.
What manga is this? I'm sorry, I missed
Blue
it.
Box.
Oh, Blue Box? Okay.
Or in Japanese, Aono Hako for all the nerds out there like me. I think that's the
Boku no
Japanese
Hero
title. I may be
Academia.
wrong. Yeah.
Boku.
She's real fun. It's a real fun thing about Rakugo. And the gimmick is that every time they like shift into someone telling Rakugo, the art style has a major shift, and like the text even the text bubble change. So you can very clearly tell what the story is in Rakugo. It's really cool. It's very fun. Okay, don't know how exactly that would work in anime, especially because telling Rakugo is a really difficult thing for them to have a voice actor do.
Notoriously, Rakugo has not gone well with members of this podcast in terms of anime adaptations.
No, that was also just not a good show.
My Master Has No Tail was not a good show.
There have been others, is also.
No, that was the only Rakugo we've had.
That was the only one.
Rakugo
That was
Shinju
the
never
only.
on
That
the
was the
show.
only one that was purely Rakugo. Rakugo has shown up before.
But yeah. But so the big thing is that there's this funny little manga called Marriage Toxin that I started reading. Because they did a really cool little poster thing on the Viz website. And I was like, oh, look, it is like 6 chapters, going to be real short, real nice. No, they just, for some reason, only have the first volume of it on Viz. It is one of the Jump Plus things, so it's with, like, Spy Family and Kaiju number 8. And, like, that. They release whenever the fuck they feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a story about a assassin who specializes in poison. But he's kind of being trained his whole life to do assassin things, kind of never spoken to people ever. At least not in a social environment. And eventually his grandma goes, "Hey, you gotta make a baby for me. You gotta go make an heir." So he's like, "Fuck. Guess I gotta go find a wife." And the whole story is about him trying to find a wife. There's a lot more to it. Like the main setup is that the first chapter is him being hired to kill a marriage swindler, who he then hires to be his wingman the whole time. And it's wonderful. These two are so wonderful together. Great dynamic between these two. And we just follow him doing jobs, attempting to pick up girls as he does them. Because boy, is he really bad at mixers. And yeah, and also the action in it fucking crazy. It's a super interesting power system, I guess you could call it, the way they use the specialists and their shenanigans. They've certainly made some specialist groups. Like there's a group of specialists that are wheel specialists. They specialize in killing things with wheels. Very
Fuck.
a very very specific group of people. But yeah, Marriage Toxin's very good. Very much worth reading. Then I also started Assassination Classroom, which I'm like 30 chapters into. I didn't know what to expect out of this manga, and I don't know if I love it yet. It is fun. I do really enjoy the characters. Koro Sensei's wonderful. He's so good.
Did you watch any of the show?
Hmm?
Did you watch any of the show?
I've watched like the first episode.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's there's a lot of things that happen. Like their English teacher is a like professional assassin, and the way she punishes and both rewards students for doing bad and doing well is to French kiss them. And that's certainly a thing that occurs.
That's one thing you can certainly do.
It's something.
Perhaps something
It's
you
crazy.
shouldn't do.
Yeah, no,
One
but
could
she's only
argue.
20, so it's not like that weird, but it's still weird. Because they are still in middle school.
So, this week on the podcast,
No, but like Karma is a great character. I adore him immensely.
Karma is
Nagisa is great. Koro Sensei's actually amazing. He is so fucking good. For anyone who has watched it, I just got through the little Miss Vitch almost getting pulled out of the job mini arc thing.
Oh, so that's still in season 1.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I assume I'm nearing the end of what would have been season 1. Like they just, or I mean, I guess I technically went a little after. They just saw a movie with Koro Sensei. Karma and Nagisa went and saw a movie.
I don't remember that. It's been like 10 years since I
Well,
watched that show.
Koro
but-
Sensei just goes, "I want to watch a movie in America," and Nagisa and Karma go, "Can we join you?" And he goes, "Sure," and then he yeets them to Hawaii.
Yes,
Well,
okay,
yeah,
I do remember
the-
that.
Because the movie came out in America first, because it's based off of an American comic, so they have to go watch it in America. Hey, Koro Sensei, said, great man. But yeah, this week,
are we ready?
I guess I played FF14.
This week
but yeah.
on
Oh.
the
Wait,
podcast.
I
You
need to
did-
talk about it so much.
You did play 14, and you are getting to the funny bit of Shadowbringers.
So let's have a quick discussion before we get. Last week, a decision happened. A wheel occurred.
One might
and solo leveling is no longer on this podcast. I had some conversations with some people off the podcast. No one here.
really
I had
well,
conversation with
probably.
my friends. Oh, they adore me. To which I went, I didn't fucking do it. And they went, and I headed into this week, and I was like, as someone who didn't vote solo leveling, I'm like, we'll see how this week goes. And then I was reminded of the entire point of the conversation we had last week, which is all these shows are fucking good still. And so it's like, it's tricky because really it's going to come down to personal preference. And I think the only thing we could ever be mad at with each other is that maybe we don't agree with the reasons things get voted off that we give, when the real reason is just we just felt like that was the one that had to go. Because like I will say, I think the argument that you have to compare it to the other action show, and the other action show being Dungeon Meshi, I don't know about that. I don't know about that at that point.
No, that was literally I only said that because you specifically made that point about Hokkaido being the other romance show,
but
compared to Sign of Affection.
But to be fair, I think that's a much more apt comparison.
I think they're both stupid comparisons. I only said it because you made the first one.
You know what? Understandable. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna
that kind of reminds me of after the thing when you said Girls Band Cry looked bad because it didn't look. You were mentioning that in comparison to Trigun, and I was like, that's a different thing to compare.
Did I say directly to Trigun?
Yeah, you did.
You did make it was more people saying it looked really good, and you were like, but I've seen Trigun, but like I was.
Well, yes. Right, but that no,
it is fair. Trigun does look better probably most of the time.
And again, I think that show is growing on me the more I see it over time. I just think my first exposure to it was bad. But we'll get into that when we get into next season, which we're not doing next season yet. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a power ranking to look at this week, because that's right. This is the Anime Fray Save or Slay podcast, where we started watching 12 new airing shows and voted off every week up to this point, so that we only have 5 shows left. And this week we have a power ranking.
We're running out of shows.
We have this week, and then we have next week, and then we have our finale, because after next week we'll have our top 3 decided. Yeah, so there are going to be spoilers for up to episode 10s of all these shows. We have not watched further. We will not watch further until after something has gone this week. There's also going to be harsh language, obviously. So let's get right into it. Speaking of the devil, it's Dungeon Meshi time. This week on Dungeon Meshi, we pick up exactly where we left off, which is the crew is about to descend further to take on the dragon, but they have to go through this large pillar, like this large tower spiral, and inside of it are more tentacles, and also frogs. So Leo starts chopping the tentacles, and he's like, we've made significant progress, and they've made no progress. And then a frog comes and tongues his sword away into the bottom of the tower, and then one steals Marcel's staff. Whoops. And now the team has to try to stop them from taking Senshi's axe, to which Chilchuk goes, the best solution is to skin a frog and use its skin to cover my hand so that I can pull this tentacle and not get infected by it and trigger the trap in the wall, which he does succeed. However, he makes a grave error. He shows Leos a way to use the frog skin to his own advantage, and thus we have the best image of the entire season, which is 4 people in frog skin. This bit's fucking wonderful, and maybe the most insane thing I've seen in an anime in a while. Senshi cooks some food, and Leo skins some frogs, and they wear them, and then they go down the tower, and then I get worried because we're now in, like, the city district where the dragon's supposed to be, and they're still wearing the frog suits, and I'm like, oh no, we're gonna do the entire climax of the show in frog suits? I don't know if I can handle that. To which point the show goes, no. Also, whoops, the frog skin did not dry well enough. It is sticking to the clothes, and that is fucking disgusting.
No, it's because the blood was still there. So
Yeah.
the blood's sticking to them.
Yeah. And then we cut to our other group that had left the dungeon, with Namari, and the older gnome man goes and meets with the boss of the island, who is being pressured by the elves from across the sea, to hand over the dungeon because it is their birthright. To which point we get some very racist remarks about elves and dwarves and gnomes. Or Gnome Man goes, "You're not gonna fucking hand a single goddamn thing over to them." And he thinks and he goes, "If we're gonna get to the bottom of this dungeon, I need Leos." I think maybe. He's not too sure on that idea. And then the Mari goes back and goes into town and goes to the church, where it seems that every day she's been separated from the party, she's been checking to see if Phelan's body shows back up, which leads to a really funny interaction with the body, with the morgue clerk guy, where she's like, "Yeah, somewhere between 16 and 35," and he goes, "No." That she very clearly is like 20. What's your problem? And we get the "I'm a dwarf. I don't know how people age. Give me a break." It's a very nice scene. And now we are planning to take on the dragon. We get this nice little battle strategy where Leos kind of breaks down how the team has fought the dragon before. And previously, Leos has never done a single goddamn thing to try to take down a dragon. He lays out this entire plan where he's like, everyone does all this work except for him and Chilchuk, who watch, I guess. I don't know. They didn't do anything before, but they're going to do a lot now. So they have this...
Leos, like, distracts the dragon a bit in
I'm
their
sure.
previous
Yeah.
versions.
He doesn't really give himself the credit of that. So they conjure a plan. This is a really nice building to a climax, battle strategy episode. And then they eat some food. Leos gives a nice little pep talk where he's like, "We wouldn't have got here without Senshi's food and Chilchuk's abilities to find different pathways. And Marcel, you're a great person." Which, while very touching, is very funny that she doesn't get any fucking credit for anything she's done. Like, they would not have got here without her water walk, and it's very funny.
Her magic is kind of like one-shot everything on the way down here.
Yeah.
Except for that one thing that almost killed everybody.
But no, it's a very touching scene. Very good. And then the dragon shows up, and oh boy, this is not a shot at any particular show. Seeing a full-bodied dragon animated and not CG, there's just something different about it, you know?
Mhm.
Because we've gotten to the point where big monsters being CG is a norm, and that's fine, because we've especially gotten to the point where that looks fine in most cases. But oh boy, just a real hand-drawn dragon. I'm not ready for Trigger to murder me next week.
I was about to say, Trigger is like one of the few studios I expect that out of, because like Trigger, notoriously has not really done much CG stuff.
Everything in Kill la Kill is
entirely hand drawn,
and that's fucking wild considering some of the shit they do in Kill la Kill.
Yeah, same with Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Like
next show, hand drawn. Woo.
I don't know about Darling in the Franxx because I haven't watched it.
If there was any CG, it wasn't anything that made you go, "Whoa, CG."
Yeah, and I don't think Promare had any either.
No, especially with how high its budget is. I'm pretty sure that was mostly. But yeah, I
know because neither did, so.
OST goes hard this week too.
Yes.
Some very good OST moments in this episode. This is in my number one this week because just slight preference over Sign of Affection, and also I think Sign of Affection's episode is interesting. It's very different from previous episodes, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, I'm just like, this is comfy zone for Dungeon Meshi, and also maybe of all of our shows, does Dungeon Meshi build to its climax the best, or is starting to? Where I'm like, oh yeah, we're getting to the end of this season, and like we're doing things to get to the end of the season, and like it's different than what we've been doing for the past 2 episodes as we get to the end of the season.
Yeah, I like where they're at right now on the show. I'm glad that like it's advancing and that like we're at the dragon. I'm excited to see where this season's gonna like end on in terms of an because this is just is it just 12 for the season for this one?
12. Everything we have left is 12.
Okay.
I believe so, yeah.
I think Metallic Rouge was the only thing that was 13 out of like the last 6 shows we've had.
The question just becomes like how like are we gonna get a dub here? Or are we just gonna like end up having to resolve the dragon situation later? You know,
you just really gotta get Phelan out of the dragon, right? That's the main.
Yeah.
Yes, but how do you do that?
We're gonna find the fuck out. I also like the setup for like the rest of the dungeon and like this elven group being like a future potential conflict. I think that's really neat in like It's smart. It's smart in your storytelling to be like there are other things happening outside the dungeon that relate to the dungeon.
Elves are bad.
Except Orelf, she's good.
Yeah.
Our elf and the
If you put her in a
kind of
frog
cool
suit, it makes
elf
her
that's in
ears make
political
the
intrigue.
make the frog ears more distinct.
I just love the logic of like, listen, guys, we need a strategy for you with a frog so we can actually advance. Let's tell her that she looks cute in it. Hey, Lysel, you look really cute in the frog skin though. And she goes, I know they're lying, but I need to find out.
She's like, I might actually look really cute. I have to know. And you know what? If this is not one of the most fucking relatable and funniest moments in this show, it's up there, man. I love that. I love that bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dungeon Meshi was good this week. It was so weird because I watched Dungeon Meshi this week and I was like, this is probably going to be like my number 1 or number 2 show. And then things happened this week.
Yeah, I know why your number 1 show is your number 1. Mason, I'm not gonna fight you on this.
Yeah. I
Me
feel like
and
this
Mason
is-
already had a conversation about it. I'm
Yeah,
not
this-
fighting any of these choices anyone has. It's literally just preference at this point.
I will say too, I fully went into this week expecting to be like bolded, and genuinely surprised I wasn't.
Well, this week's PR split is a little wonky. You know,
Fair.
only 5 shows, and obviously I'm keeping the top 3 where it is.
Mm.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I really like Dungeon Meshi this week. It's only at 3 because I thought other 2 shows did more interesting things, and very slightly by that. It's a very close race for those 3 for me this week.
Michael?
I like Dungeon Meshi a lot. These characters are just so fun.
Mhm.
I get like the whole frog skin thing was fucking great, and I think the thing with the show is that with how like cute and fun it is, it so randomly hits you with like some brutal shit. Like
Yeah.
watching Chillchuck skin the toad was
God.
not something I was
Yeah.
ready for.
Yeah.
Like
Killing off it.
it's crazy. Like
Also, those toads might be a little too accurate to actual toads for my comfort level. Where I'm like, those are just really big, like tropical frogs, and that's that makes it a little unnerving to just be skinning them and wearing their skin.
Well, my brain was like, man, to me, none of those actually look like it would grow real nicely.
Yeah.
I'm starting to turn into Lionel watching this show.
I mean, dude,
I mean,
frogs a
have you
delicacy.
guys never eaten frog?
Frog's a delicacy.
It sounds, the meat looked
Frog
good.
goes crazy.
It might just
just
be 'cause my
spicy
dad
chicken.
just made fresh beef jerky too. And so my brain might be a little biased.
Well, let's get the move on. Moving up next, we have, as I called it, an interesting and different episode of A Sign of Affection. John?
So this week in Sign of Affection, it focuses less on our main girl and more on our boy Itsuomi and trying to get closer with
Oshi.
our friend whose name I forget. Oshi?
It's in the episode title.
I know. But listen, I've been in a car for like 6 hours today, and I
Fair
slept
enough.
through like 3 naps of it. But basically, we get this flashback of the fireworks, and then it comes to this show where Itsuomi is hanging out with oh my god, my brain is spaghetti today. Yuki at their place. They have this cute scene where they sit down and watch a movie, and he's like, "Hey, we'll put the subtitles on so we can watch together." And he's like, "Hey, you're super nervous about cuddling, but it's real sweet and cute." And then she gets a phone call, and it's a friend of hers who Itsuomi hasn't seen before. And she is just like rapid firing like signs and talking at the same time. And she explains, "Oh, she's has late term hearing loss, so she tries to speak everything she signs, so that way she doesn't forget how to speak things." Which makes sense. But basically introduces to the boyfriend. She finds out Yuki can work at her aunt's place to help out in the kitchen, which again seems like a lot of difficulty in communication in a kitchen where you kind of want to just shout things and not have to use your hands to direct things. But hey, if it works out, great for Yuki. And then they share some little romantic like hand kisses and some kisses. And then they snuggle up and sleep. Well, they don't actually. She sleeps in the bed and he sleeps on the floor. And she's like, this feels a little weird. And meanwhile, we have Shin going to the bar to talk to Itsuomi's cousin, who also works at the bar.
Which we learned this episode. Did we know he was his cousin?
That's what I asked too.
I don't
yeah,
think we know
like,
that.
yeah, we knew that. I'm like, did we?
We knew that.
It's been
We-
so. That had to have been like an episode, like in the first 3 episode thing, which is why I don't
It
remember
was.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like how Kyoya gets introduced. Is he's like, yeah, this is my cousin. I work at his bar.
Yeah, I just thought it was I work here. I know it.
No,
I did not remember the cousin thing, so it did also throw me for a loop. Thank you,
But then
Mason,
we're
for
talking
having
about,
a
like,
memory.
How
Yeah,
should
she-
Shin bring up basically that Itsuomi's dating somebody now? They have a kind of somber discussion about it, and so then we have Itsuomi the next night running into Oshi at school, and he's like, "Hey, we got to do this. We got to talk."
This bit's
So he walks
funny.
into campus, and he runs into everybody else like, "Hey, Itsuomi, how you doing?" He's like, "Hey, how you doing? Who's that guy?" "I don't fucking know yet. We're gonna figure it out." He's like, "Okay, good luck."
Is
and
he
then
your
runs into
is he your
German friends,
friend?
they're like,
Working
"Hi."
on it.
"Hi, B Gates," and he's like, B Gates. And they're like, "Who the fuck's that guy?" And he's like, "Probably a friend eventually. Good luck, man," which is the most German response I've ever heard. And so he basically like sits him down in the cultural affairs office and goes, "Listen, we got to figure this out because I don't want to hate you, like I do, but I don't, because we both like the same girl clearly." And Oshi just goes, "No, I hate you. I'm not hearing it. I'm out of here." And so he's just like, "I'll do whatever you want." He's like, "No," and leaves anyways. But then Itsuomi just follows him out the door down the hallway. So eventually they wind up at the bar with his cousin, and they talk a bit about themselves and stuff. And we learn that Oshi is a omega lightweight, and after 3 years, is just fucking absolutely gone, and has a memory of like the fireworks as a kid and growing up and like falling in love with a young Yuki and stuff at the fireworks festival, and learns how to sign and stuff like this. And finally opens up a bit to Itsuomi, where he's like, "Hey, you make her cry. I'm gonna be there and try to steal her girl, but I'm not gonna do that until then because I'm not that guy."
Make a girl
don't
cry, and you're
like
gonna
you.
have a bad time.
And he's like, "I still don't like you, and I can't hate you because you're not a terrible person." And Itsuomi's like, "I can't really hate you either because I really wanted to." But they both like the same girl because they both share traits in general. But and it's a cute little episode. But I like Oshi a bit more now. He's a pretty good friend. He's just looking out for the girl he likes. And Itsuomi is the most based guy on the planet. I fucking love this dude.
There's a couple of things that are really interesting in this episode. The implication that Oshi's been in denial that like not even just like recently, that like his entire life he's been in denial that like like how he's viewed his relationship with Yuki is not love, but instead just like a special little bond they have with each other where Sign lets them do that, is just like it is just him covering the "no, I love her." And like and that's what Itsuomi breaks through. I also really like the implication because I don't think it's by accident. Before we get to the Oshi stuff, we have the conversation with Shin, where the message that is sent to him is, "You have to think about your own feelings, my dude, like at least once ever in your life." And then you get to Oshi, and it's almost like, "I don't know what it is about this kid, but I can't hate him." It's almost like you have a friend who's exactly the fucking same as him. It's almost like you see maybe a close friend of yours in this fucker. And I think this episode's really neat. I really like a lot of the stuff about it. I have some really, really small gripes of things where I'm like just certain things rub me the wrong way, and I know they're not supposed to. But like for me as a person, it's like, cool, you have Itsuomi and Yuki, who've established that if they're ever going to kiss, at least right now and the way their relationship is, they're going to pinch each other first. And then he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He just, and like that I think is an element of Itsuomi's character that I don't like, is that he has a lot of things he establishes that are really good and healthy for relationship, and he'll just choose to ignore them. And I do think that's just kind of his personality. But like I think that's always been part of the reasons why like I've liked Oshi as a character, and I haven't had to have like the waiting for this episode to make me really like him. Like I've always liked the guy because I don't think I don't think he's inherently a bad person, whereas like Itsuomi had to earn that for me just because of the way his personality was, which I think is really interesting. But of course, this band drops like super deep, high level romance comments towards Oshi that he's like, damn, I can't fucking fight this guy. He's too deep. I really like this episode. It's just it's a change of pace, which is nice. Yeah, it's just I like Dungeon Meshi a little more. That's all.
No, that's fair.
Fair.
It was real fun seeing Itsuomi with Oshi, because Itsuomi is essentially a different character when he's around Yuki versus other people.
Yeah.
Like, because I watch the show dubbed, at least when I can, at least since I've been able to. And like, I'm not the biggest fan of Itsuomi when he's with Yuki in the dub, because I assume the direction of it was that he's supposed to talk slow because lip reading. Like, he intentionally talks really slow, and it's kind of like monotone, because it doesn't matter if he's like really being expressive. But the moment he gets to Oshi, it's like a fucking 180 on this character. He's fucking he's being a fucking goober the whole time, just like picking on him constantly. Hey, yo, what's your favorite bread?
I like that as an opener.
You do
It's
club?
like,
You do sports? You play ball? Do you ball? Tell me.
it's like, hey, listen. What kind of curry? You like the curry? I'm a big fan of the curry bread. Pretty good.
And then he's
See,
just
we're just the same person.
And then he's just like, oh, you don't want to play my game. Okay, you like Yuki. Let's fucking go. You want to fight? We'll fight. I also really, really do like Oshi's point of view where he's like, see, I don't like you because my first interaction with you, you picked a fucking fight with me, asshole. I don't like you because you covered my friend who is deaf's vision and then glared at me from across the subway. What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's really fair. It was a scene that made me uncomfortable that he chose to do that.
One thing, this is not related to the Itsuomi Oshi portion of the show or of this episode, but something I really liked that unfortunately the dub didn't really do, but the sub did really well was when Yuki is talking to Madoka in this episode. In the sub, she has a like notably different speech pattern.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
It simulates how she can't hear herself talk, which is really fucking cool.
And this is and this is how people who have late hearing loss sound. It's like it's so accurate. It was a little jarring at first for me because I have family who have different levels of deafness in like it related to me, so like I've grown up with those people, so a lot of this is I'm like, this is really really well done for this character because I know people who do sign and talk, like they do both. I know people who are full deaf, they sign and they make noise, because they just do.
Yeah, it was a wonderful addition to it that I really enjoyed.
Oh yeah.
There was one other thing and I can't remember. So something that the dub also does a little differently, because I watched this on my own today, and I watched it with Michael as well, watching the dub. And something that the dub does that's a little bit different that I wasn't the biggest fan of is they change the line when they are like when Yuki's all tensed up and Itsuomi kisses her. He says the line of like, I don't want you to be this tense while we're just cuddling, or something to that effect. He doesn't say that until later in the dub when they're already like in bed and they're talking about it. And it just makes him seem creepier in the dub versus in the sub. But it's not like a huge deal. Just something I noticed. Makes his character a little bit different.
Itsuomi's such an interesting character because they're like I don't know how I feel about him as like the show has made me trust him as Yuki does, but like I also see him through the eyes of some of the other members of the cast but are like, I still don't know because he's such a hard read of a person. Like, and it makes this a very interesting romance because these characters are not so like so flat and dry and cookie cutter that like they're all very very interesting.
They're very complex characters and I really enjoy that.
They're adults. It's great.
Hmm?
They're getting there, some of them.
Oh, they're learning.
And then with that, we move into Weakest Tamer. So this week on Weakest Tamer, the plan continues, and perhaps it maybe should have not continued for so long. I really like the show. I do. It's my show. Boy, have we been building this setup now for a while. We're like 4 episodes deep into That's Not Right.
I saw that.
That's not how that's supposed to go.
It's okay, Sean. Nobody saw it.
No, I think they did. But so this episode we pick back up. We pick back up with the invitation to go eat sweets from the Green Gale. At which point we have what is a really funny and great scene for Latrue's character, which is he very tensely starts a game of rock paper scissors, and I really like the fact that this shows that him and Mila are actual, like, they are childhood friends. They're not like this is something that is a great way to establish, we, like, here is us showing you the thing we've told you about these two, is that they clearly have done this before, and boy does he go fucking ham in this game. And of course he wins because he's the best. And they go to eat at his place, which he has selected because the owner is a former adventurer who he trusts. Which really shouldn't mean jack shit in this city anymore, but hey, I appreciate him for still holding to his beliefs. Boy, are those brothers the creepiest motherfuckers in this show for the entirety of this episode. They can't deliver a single goddamn line without sounding evil. We have a really nice moment at the table where the guys start flexing their 2-star skills of his 2-star defensive ability and talking about Latrue's 3-star fire attack skill, which will never not be funny. At which point they're like, Mila's just a 2-star tamer who only contains slimes, and her slimes only destroy garbage. And Ivy's like, I think that's really cool and super important, and maybe we shouldn't undermine the woman at the table, based 9-year-old. At which point Latrue is like, I also think tamers are cool. Smile. And I do like the subtle implication that, like, oh, like I said earlier when talking about One Piece, some characters are evil because of poor situations and upbringing, and that seems to be the implication to Mila, about Mila, which I think is, again, sometimes I do like having evil women in shows that are just evil, but this is a character who I felt like they have kind of been building as, like, she's not the worst of this set of people. And also I think it is a good thing to start getting into of so many people in this town are rotten and corrupted. Maybe not all of them are fully evil, horrible people, though. Maybe a couple of them are just in really bad spots that they kind of don't have a choice but to go along with this. And then the team comes up with a plan, I guess. We don't quite fully understand what the plan is. Besides, it's to draw away most of the guard so that the enemy thinks they can make a move on the old hideout where all the stuff is. And also then pull some of the adventurers away. I don't know this. I don't know why we're doing this part. Besides to get the Green Gale to meet back up with Ivy to use her as a decoy. Maybe that's the whole point, is if you make Ivy the focal point, more people are going to target her in general. I'm not too sure on this, though. So they do the whole meet and greet thing again for the fourth time. And then Ivy also recommends sleep gassing people. This might be the first time they've run this bit into the ground of the past life advice. And because it's the first time, I don't think it's too bad, but there's a lot of, what the fuck did you just say? What's a skink? But yeah, so Ivy comes up with a bunch of ideas. We do the 9-year-old bit again. And so they then pull the guard away, and try to explain to the head captain of the guard how this plan is going to work without explaining to him how the plan's going to work because they don't want to talk about it in the open, to which they then proceed to talk about it in the open about 5 minutes later, once people have moved around a little bit. At some point you're all gonna have to fucking talk. It's just maybe, you're not necessarily spewing the whole plan to him there in that moment, but it is a little hypocritical. And then the gang, Ivy invites the Green Gale to go to their regular snack place, where Latrude delivers a very random and threatening line about how these sweets will knock you out in one bite. We also get a really good scene when they're discussing the plan of Latrude being like, no, I'm going to protect Ivy with my life if I have to. I am the most based individual ever.
True is so good.
He is
He's
a very
such
good boy. I like this show. I'm really, really hoping the payoff next week is worth the build-up. Because that is definitely where this show, where, like, this is make or break for the show, is if this next episode is not, like, the most insane fucking thing ever, it's gonna feel really bad. Because we've spent so long building here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the stuff with Mila this episode's really well done. I think Mila is such a well done character at this point because it's just the way the two brothers in quotation marks, whatever the fuck they are, the thing 1 and thing 2 you could call them.
Yeah.
The way they treat her, it's like, oh god, that hurts. They're being assholes right now. But also,
the question if they're not secretly slimes.
Yeah.
They're ravenous.
Hold on a
beasts
second.
devouring.
Hold on. Was there a theory amongst the three of you
Yeah.
that the brothers
Yeah,
were slimes?
you were not in call for this.
And
Yeah,
this never got brought up on the podcast? Why?
Nope.
This is the most
I
interesting
swear.
discussion we've ever had.
I swear I brought this up last week. Yeah, I've had the idea since those two fuckers showed up, where I was like, yeah, they're the slimes that she had.
That's wild.
I swear I brought that up.
Maybe
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't.
where I was getting it from.
Maybe
Yeah,
you offhandedly mentioned it and I didn't hear you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, because their hair is the exact same color as those two slimes, and they're also just assholes.
Yeah, there's something that stuff with Mila is really good. Again, Latrua once again being immensely based as he always is. Love that guy.
True.
Weird thing in the dub. I don't know how this goes in the sub. When they're doing like the talk on the roof, or they're talking to the captain, a blue-haired guy. I don't remember his name. He is the most suspicious sounding man. Yeah.
Or Fachala or something like that.
Yeah. He is like the most suspicious sounding man of all time for no fucking reason.
This is the Archer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it
Yeah.
legitimately feels like they're setting up with that scene that he was actually been a turncoat the whole time and he's part of the organization.
He does
And
deliver
that also
a-
the captain, but it also the way it also because the way he talks to the captain, it sounds like the captain's also part of the organization.
They do a lot of
it's such an
like they
odd
do a
scene
lot of
the way they
code
do it.
conversation that just doesn't really hit. You're like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It sounds weird, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the scene
We're
where
hitting
he's
him with the yoinky sploinky. What the fuck's
See, but-
the yoinky sploinky? I cannot tell you.
10 out of 10 show. If that was the delivery we were getting. Yeah, but I feel like you're talking about like right before he goes to set up the silence bomb, right? Like
Yeah.
he is super. Here's the thing though. He is very much like, this is a bad character I'm about to compare him to because the character is not necessarily a good person. He's very Shinon from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, and it's not just the Archer comparison. Like, he has the same, like, very, like, asshole-ish, like, I hate the people
Yeah.
around me, like, but am still hanging with these people. Like, I'm also really good at what I do and you're kind of not, to, like, the person who's kind of, like, his best friend dynamic. But he's not a racist that we know of yet, and he's not as hard as Shinon. But like, to me, it's just like they're doing like that style of character where like they're where they are kind of a dick, and like that is like what makes like they're a dick, but they're a dick because they're so good at what they do, kind of character. That I think I'm not worried about that, but I absolutely get where you got that from. because the vibe is there.
Yeah. Because it's like specifically the way they had the read done in English too is like something.
Well, he has a couple of like, I remember from watching some of the dub with you. He has a couple of lines where like he is just kind of like, he sounds kind of evil in some of his reads in earlier part. Like both the bits where he beats the shit out of people for stealing stuff or doing things wrong in last week's episode. He also kind of has that tone to him where I'm like,
you're a good guy, right?
I do.
Killing for justice.
Part of me does kind of like the bit of, okay, let's introduce you to the first adventurer, immediately evil. And seemingly very evil from the way the Sora almost fucking broke out of that bag. He's so evil. And I'm like, and they're like, damn, already? Fuck.
Damn, Tim?
People,
I love Tim.
People who are really bad.
Guess we gotta send him to jail.
Man, this gonna be fucking. I want to talk about this. After they get out of the sweet shop, the scene with Latrue, talking about the way the city used to be and how he wants it to be is a really good scene. With the kid chasing the butterfly, that's just a well done scene. I kind of miss having a lot more of scenes like that, which I felt like we got more of. I felt like we've kind of been lacking that kind of stuff in the past 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Compared to where the show was in the beginning. So I'm glad to kind of have that little moment. I personally definitely need to see its next episode to know how I feel wholly on the show, I think.
See, so I'll be real. I have this show at the bottom.
You've had it there for a while.
I've had it there for a while, but also, especially this week, I feel like, as you said, we've been in the setup stage of this arc for like 4 episodes now, and it's really like, I'm not saying it was a bad episode. It's just dragging. And everything else this week did something really neat or had an actual setup phase where it's like, okay, clear, concise, we are done with this. In the case of Dungeon Meshi.
I argue there is one show that is maybe... I argue there is one show whose structure should maybe be closing in on a conclusion, and who did not feel like it was necessarily doing that, with the exception of one bit at the very end of its episode. But we're gonna get there in a hot minute. It sure is maybe the hot button topic of the entire podcast. Do we have other thoughts on Tamer first?
No.
No, I mean, I think it's all right. Like I was saying, it's just kind of dragging on, and like we're at the point in the season where it's like it's gonna be top 4. So if it's going slow, it's gonna go.
Yeah, let's move into this, Michael. Right, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Hokkaido gals.
Yeah, so this episode is real fun. So it is now springtime, new school year. And we start off with we fucking start this episode off with some like random hard hitting shit as Siren, or not Siren, that's the other character. Minami is Fuyuki, Fuyumina, Minami, with all of the names. She's waiting for him like right down his block, and he goes, she wouldn't be walking. What the fuck is she doing here? And she's like, let's walk to school together. And they have this nice little chat. And she hits him with the, yes, there's a chance we're not in the same class. And like, if we weren't, I wanted to at least see you one time this semester. And it was like, damn, okay. Like it's like randomly, I don't know. It's like, okay, ouch, sad. She also, they have this whole thing. It's like, she felt really lonely for most of spring break because he wasn't available. He was sick. / his grandma said, you're sick, not allowed to leave the house when he was fine. Colds don't take a full week to recover from most of the time. Especially if you're like being cared for well. But like, yeah, it's just a really good moment between the two of them. And crazy, they're all in the same class together. The whole squad of the 4 of them, they're all back together. Whoa. 2 girlfriends and the boyfriend, all back together. And we get them being in class. Tsubasa gets nominated and then elected as class president. Minami then immediately raises her hand to be vice president as Akino's like, meh. She was like mid raising her hand, but like she's too shy to like actually gone for it. Then Tsubasa and Akino play Animal Crossing.
They sure do.
They play Animal. It's a good time. These two are adorable. They're just vibing playing Animal Crossing. I remember he hits her with some like a crazy question and like breaks her or something because that's what happens.
He tells her that he thinks she's grown throughout the time that they've known each other.
Yeah, because she's having like crazy imposter syndrome because of course people do that. She's like, yeah, I'm just kind of here. You two are so amazing. You're friends with like everyone. Minami's literally friends with everyone. And he's just like, okay, but you used to literally never speak to people. You're out here going, hey, let's play video games. You literally you stood up for Minami on Valentine's Day. It's just like a really good moment between the two of them. It's great. And there's something happens at then Minami and like school the next day. Yeah, because they're doing student council things.
Yeah.
And she hits him with the yoinky sploinky, as one could call it. It's like it was like it was Golden Week's next week. You better keep a whole day open for me or whatever. And it was like, okay, that's something. I really enjoy this show. This show's wonderful. Like the moment it turned around, it stopped doing the every like 10 minutes we got to hit you with some titties and some absolute stupid bullshit fan service. They started like developing the characters and they're all just like really well written characters.
Yeah.
Just good.
So I personally do not feel as strongly about the opening of this episode as you do. It did not hit me nearly as hard as it hit you, in terms of like the concern. And also, I don't know, there is something about walk and talk for like 2-3 minutes that just my brain was like, I don't really care. Which I get that we don't do that in this show because it's been snow the whole time. Like I get that it's actually like new and like different and like a thing to do. But like my brain was not firing for that portion of the episode. I really think that the episode has a high spot with the stuff about like as soon as Fuyuki goes, I'm gonna be vice president, and it is so much more clear in my opinion that the take on this is she was gonna raise her hand to do it because she's way more suited for this role than Fuyuki is. Like her personality is much better in terms of getting stuff done, and like actually like putting in work ethic comparatively on like a very base view level. And I don't think it's more of like she didn't have like she wasn't like I don't even necessarily think it was her being nervous. I just don't think she pulled the trigger fast. I think that's all it is. I think is that Fuyuki was just faster. And what the fuck do you do? Like she makes the choice to not fight on that because it'd be weird to do it in the social setting. Which I really like. I really like the interaction on the game because of it. I think it's a nice build up for her character. You have to lead into Golden Week, which I think we'll probably have another just episode of this show, and then that'll be where it closes is on Golden Week, which like in that way it sets up for a conclusion. But this episode opens with them starting their second year of school, and I'm like, this is not a conclusion to a show. This is building into the next arc of a show when we're so close to the end of it. This is the nature of the genre in the show. This is how it's going to do it. I get that.
We're building into the next arc of the manga, yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's just I don't know. I think the show is good. I think it's made a lot of really great strides. It is definitely for me the toss up between this and Tamer for this week. I still think Tamer's probably had higher highs more often than this show did. It just happens that a lot of it was more front-centered for Tamer, and we've been in this lull. I think if Tamer hits its next episode really well, it will absolutely be a top 3 contender. I don't know if I feel like this show should be top 3 anyway in terms of Hokkaido Gals. Like, I think if it doesn't go this week, it's definitely going next week, given what else is on the block. Where I think, like, if I am thinking what it's going to get into top 3, I think I think that it is either Tamer drops the ball next week and doesn't beat Villain out, or it's just Villain. Like, I don't think Hokkaido has the chops to be in this top 3 personally, and that's just kind of where I am. And I've also kind of felt that way for like the past 3 weeks. Like, it's been in the same way that Tamer has been Mason's bottom for the past 4. This has been my bottom for the past like 5. So like it's one of those things where it's like I appreciate how much work it's put in to be a better show. I appreciate that it's done that. I don't think last week's episode was anything particularly special. I think this episode has good moments. I don't think it has what it takes to get to the top.
I think that's fair. Like, I think it's a good show, but the question is just like, again, like where it compares to those other. I'd say honestly 2, because like it seems like we're all pretty much on board with like Sign of Affection and Dungeon Meshi being in that top 3. The question is like which of these shows kind of makes that like last cut compared to the rest, and it's like Hokkaido Girls is going to be a rom-com that's not going to have any semblance of like an ending really here. Mr. Villains is kind of trudging along, and it's also probably not going to have like a definitive ending, and then you have Weakest Tamer, which might end like the current arc, and that's about it. So it's like
I think all 3 of them are in a boat where I actually think Villain maybe is in the best spot to have an ending, just because of its structure. Like, it can just choose a point and like it just wraps nicely. I think Tamer and Hokkaido are in a very similar spot in that they obviously have so much more to their stories. So it's like you're going, and I think realistically they both have a clear endpoint. Tamer is going to be you end this arc and then you set up the next journey out, whereas Hokkaido is you build to the confession. The worry is, are you actually going to get a confession? At least where I am, because the genre of show and the style of show typically skirts around that, because that's how you keep the harem part of it active, is if they actually don't do it. And I think you have a good ending if it gets there, but that's also not what we're talking about, right? Like, we are not technically judging it by an ending we don't have. We're judging by what we do have, and I still stand by that. I just don't think what we have is enough to get it there, for me.
What do you think, Mason?
I think for me, it might just be because the dub is as well done as it is. This is one of the funniest shows I watched on this podcast. Like, outside of like Bocchi the Rock, I don't think there's another show that's made me laugh this consistently throughout episodes.
I definitely don't have that experience, so maybe it is the dub. But like, I also like so
that's pretty fair. It has been super funny, but I think the dub definitely has a major part in that.
I've also watched episodes of the dub, and I still also don't think it gets me that hard, even when I have. And lo and behold, everybody, I'm back. I've returned to my primal state. Humor and me don't go well on this podcast 80% of the time. True. So, like, what am I to say? Something really has to get me for me to think, like, it's funny and really good. And I definitely don't see it that way. But I get where you're coming from, Michael.
I think it's funny as fuck.
Yeah. I'm with Michael on this. I really have started enjoying this show, which is not something I would have thought at the beginning of this season. Because me, notable fan service hater, but crazy as soon as this show stopped doing fan service and I could just enjoy it as the rom-com that it is. It's a pretty fucking solid rom-com. With well-written characters that I think do exactly what they should be doing in any given situation. Part of it too is I was talking with Michael about this today. It is another thing about the dub, and it's that the dub for this show is the least anime sounding dub I've ever heard, which is weird to say. But what I mean by that is that it never feels like a line read, it feels like a conversation. in like every single scene in this show, it feels like it's just characters talking as opposed to, and then they said this, and then they said this. And like you can tell that they're reading from a page or like trying to do a certain like mood to it. It just feels like the natural progression of how this topic would go about. Yeah. So I don't know. I really like this show. But I understand those thoughts on it as well.
I mean,
I can understand it not being your favorite thing ever.
We've also mentioned this. I'm sure watching this subbed, knowing Japanese is a different experience than watching it subbed, not knowing, like, not being able to parse the like Hokkaido accents and like bits like that. So maybe I am in the wrong for not watching it dubbed. I don't think
you are, first of all.
No, but also Tsubasa's voice is a lot to get through because
I also don't think that the nature of the show, like the nature of this style of podcast, should be like, well, one of these has a really bad dub, so I think it should go because I've chosen to watch it, dubbed. Like,
yeah.
I'm trying, like, I appreciate you're telling me stuff about the dub that makes it better. I'm watching it subbed, so what I have is my experience, and like,
no, and that's fair.
And like, I think the argument is like, if the dub was bad, you would probably have switched to the sub. I don't think the sub's bad, so I'm not switching to the dub. And I don't personally feel the need to watch the dub. So it's like it's an odd little thing.
For sure.
I think we need to talk about our other show as well.
Yes.
Because I think we are definitely in an interesting little spot now. That we've all expressed some opinions, and that means we have to talk about our last show. Which I know Mason's very excited to talk about, and so am I.
I'm very excited.
So am I. Let's talk about Mr. Villain's Day Off.
So Mr. Villain's Day Off hits us with the yoinky sploinky immediately, and plays its normal ending as its opening, which means you're in for something this week. And it turns out that something is Mr. Villain is barely in this episode, and he's only in it for a flashback for 5 seconds that we've already seen. This whole episode is following the Rangers. So you start off with Pink, and she's buying everyone like chocolates and gifts for Valentine's Day. She starts off with Blue, where she gets him a tiny little chocolate piece, and that's it. And then she debates on buying a puzzle of Japan for Red, but decides it would be too mean, which is fucking hilarious. She ends up buying everyone chocolates. And then we get a scene of her handing it to Blue, him being like, you could have just not done that, and her saying, where's my thank you? And then the entire rest of this episode is just pain. It just hurts. We go into the backstory of how Blue became the Blue Ranger, which is his dad was the former Blue Ranger, and he fucking died. And he inherited the Ranger powers.
But he doesn't, right? Like, that is... They express it. It's actually not a genetic thing. He just happens to be the next Ranger.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is he inherits it in the, like, metaphorical and also literal sense, not the genetic sense. And it's basically just him and the Black Ranger for a while, like, just kind of hanging out. And then the Pink Ranger shows up. And they immediately get into a fight because she doesn't like those suits because they're skin tight. And she doesn't like that.
Well, because she wants to be a magical girl.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before this, we also get White Day,
yes.
where all of the boys, except for Black, go and buy gifts for Pink. Red gets lost. Blue spends 2 hours trying to figure out what he's going to buy her. It's just good. And then after this, Sora and Mugi, the Green Ranger, show up as babies. Their parents are dead, and Blue and Pink are like, "Yeah, we're gonna be here. We're gonna resonate with them to make them grow stronger. It's gonna be great." And Black is like, falls asleep. After that, Sora and Mugi go missing one day. And while they're searching for them, Blue is like, or Pink stops Blue for a second and goes, "Hey, I know I said I wasn't your friend, but I'm fine with being your friend." And Blue goes, "Nah, I'll pass. But I do I do see you as kind of like a little sister, like I have my little brother, so like that's fine." Um, and then they end up, the Green Ranger forms as the Green Ranger, and they're freaking out because they don't know where their mom and dad are because they're babies and their mom and dad are dead. And they end up, Blue and Pink basically go, "Look, your mom and dad are dead, but like we'll be here as siblings for you, and we're not gonna leave you." And they reform into children or babies. Um, and then after that, Red ends up getting found because he was lost. They couldn't find him for a minute. And then we get a little scene of Black being depressed because he's the last Ranger from the previous Ranger team that was the only one that lived. And it has this neat visual effect over it where like everything's gray except for the flowers that he's bringing to their grave. And it's just him going, "I don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't train all of them. I was barely a good ranger in the first place. What do I do?" And it's just him kind of like being anxious over it. And that's basically the whole episode. And then we get the usual opening as the ending, because they did the full Yoinky Spoinky.
We also get really cool mid cards where instead of Panda spinning around people, it's the different Rangers depending on who's in the center, which is really neat and really cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
This show is probably a really, really neat dissection of the genre. If you are someone who's really, really into the superhero, Sentai, Power Rangers Rangers theme, and as someone who does like the genre and does enjoy it, there's obviously a lot of things you can pick up on that are really cool, and also really traditional in the role a lot of these characters play. Yeah, I really like this show. I've been talking about this the past for a while. There was a point, it's probably the midway point where I was like, no, I really do like a lot of the way that this show is directed and pushes a lot of themes and ideas to you and lets you get them. And I don't think the show's really ever dropped the ball on that. I think it's been incredibly consistent. I just think that it maybe lacks a very poignant high, very clear high, a oh my god, this is fucking insane moment. The closest I think you get is the beach scene of full silence, because as a direction kind of thing, that scene is really, really well done. But just by nature of the genre and the type of show it is, you don't get the moments that some of the other shows do. But that by no means I think makes it a lesser show. And this is a really refreshing style of episode to get, where you look at the Rangers. I do think maybe the only drawback to this episode is we don't get more about Red, especially with how pivotal he is of a character to the group. Clearly,
there's hey, we lost Red. Hey, we found Red.
Well, it's more of we haven't found Red yet, and the joke is maybe he's lost somewhere, because of course that's the joke, that's the character.
It made me kind of lose it the first time I saw it, I'm not gonna lie.
I was really surprised that we didn't transition a little more out of Blue into I expected us to talk about Red. We got the stuff with Black, which was really, really well done. I really enjoy it. I'm really in, it makes me want so much that I don't think I'm going to get out of this show, and again, I don't think that's a bad thing, but my brain's just I want so much more out of this cast of characters in this world and this story, but I don't think that's the point. But yeah, I really like it. I think this episode is fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I probably should have put this a lot higher, but unshow bias, Lamau. See, I think my biggest issue with the show for most of it, issue in quotation marks, is that the thing I really like in shows, which I think is why I like Slice of Life as much as I do, is when I have really fun characters I can follow that do things that are consistently well written. And main guy is fine, but he's kind of just his character is that he likes pandas, and that's all he really is 97% of the time. So anytime there was just him in a thing, I was kind of just yeah, it's fun. It's funny.
I think
we're
could
vibing.
argue that it is too much of one character for too often for probably your preference on Slice of Life.
And like this episode's great because I love the cast of the Rangers. They're all fucking phenomenal. I love all of them. Blue was kind of whatever before this episode, but we actually get stuff with him this episode. His whole little thing with Pink. Those two are wonderful. I adore them. They're great.
Yeah, by far the Rangers' biggest problem is that you don't have enough time with any of them outside of like Red, who appears by far the most, and the kids. Like the kids are great immediately, so like it's hard not to like immediately love them.
Even then, I enjoyed Pink's thing, the episode she was in.
But like Blue, you just don't. Blue and Black, you haven't really gotten outside of the Cat moment. I don't think we've seen Blue fucking meet the Ranger at all. Really,
he has not. He has not met Mr. Villain at all. He's the only one that hasn't.
Like my favorite parts of the episodes have always been the parts where it's him with someone else, whether it's him and the kid looking to see what the panda's tail color was, whether it's him talking to the grandpa and the grandpa turns to a child on the bench. That scene still is the crazy shit the show's ever done. That shit, I was like, huh? Whether it's him with the fucking sleepy guy under the Katatsu monster making little animals with the oranges. I love when this show uses its other character. Not like he's a bad character. It's just that he isn't enough by himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode was fucking phenomenal. I love this character. That was a weird tangent.
No, I'm with you. Like, I like it when it uses its other characters, because for a while it felt like it really just hasn't done anything with the Rangers, right? And that was one of my biggest gripes, and it actually did stuff with the Rangers, which is nice. I just still enjoy the other shows better than this one, even after that. Like I said, the investment with the Rangers feels like I wish I knew more about them earlier so I could care more about them earlier, I guess, is kind of the idea. But like, in the end, we basically have only really seen Red and a little bit of Pink, and then we've seen like small sides with the rest of them until this episode where we actually get like, okay, so this is how the Rangers exist, and like when one Ranger dies, the spirit becomes another Ranger somewhere that they have to go find, and you know. I mean, we just got introduced to Black Ranger, what, like 2 episodes ago? Yeah. And we know why now, but like
we've seen him around, yeah. Like he's hovered, but like yeah,
it's just a weird like suddenly. Oh yeah, so he's just depressed because he has to work long days and take care of kids and also raise them as Rangers and also do this by himself because all his friends died.
And he's an insomniac innately.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which by the
way, they basically just live in a house where scientists just sit there and study them and help them be better Rangers, basically.
Which by the way, we should talk about real quick, like the Black Ranger being the last Ranger of a group, or being like the one who has to carry like an immense amount of that's like the Black Ranger's thing.
That is Black Ranger's
that is
thing.
The Black Ranger, which is it was a matter of time if we were actually getting into the Ranger trope that we were getting this. But yeah, just for those uninformed who might not know of the trope. It is tricky for me because I legitimately last week felt Villain and Solo Leveling were the 2 shows to beat if you wanted to get in the top 3. Like, if you wanted to be with Sign of Affection and Dungeon Meshi, you had to beat those qualities of shows. I still hold that Villain's probably there, which is why, like, for me the argument is Tamer or Hokkaido. And it's very clear which show I think is the worst show of those 2. And it's also very clear, like, and it would be different if I thought Hokkaido also really, really had the potential to turn around, like, and be better than Mr. Villain for me, and I just don't think it has that chance, where I can see a world where Tamer gets there for me. Because I think, like, a Tamer that really hits this conclusion episode out of the park and returns back to what, like, the first 6 episodes were like, is a show that's contention for top 3. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, Hokkaido has to raise to new levels still. And, like, because I don't even think the piano bit from the episode is good enough. Hey, man, they put a decent enough emphasis on that homeroom teacher, is all I'm saying. She's got a name. She's got a personality. She fucking lifts, apparently.
She got personalities, all right.
Okay.
Remember the hair.
That wasn't what I meant.
What?
So results are in. It
What's
is
next week?
pretty cut and dry. Two full saves on Dungeon Meshi and Sign of Affection. No surprise, it's been the way for a while. We have 1 slay on Mr. Villains, 2 on Hokkaido, and 3 on Tamer.
Wow.
So I guess the conversation topic for me is, Michael, it really blew it this week? You've been so high on Tamer for the entire season.
This episode, it was finally just. This episode just was not nearly as good as all 4 other episodes this week. And at this point, it's just kind of what's going to end up happening.
Which I think it's fair. I also said that I think comparatively the episode is not good. We've been here a while.
See, I could have voted all 3 because, like, in my brain it was either I vote just Tamer or I vote a villain Tamer Hokkaido, because I think there's a significant gap between those 3 and the top 2 in terms of like just the sheer quality of show. But who truly cares what the ranking is at the end?
Season,
Ain't no way Hokkaido's gonna win this season. So. The fact that Hokkaido's getting into top 4 is the most crazy. It might be the most crazy thing that's happened this season. I think that's crazier than solo leveling going off before top 3.
See, I think they're equal because I think it's a matter of like, yeah, the show's getting far, but in my opinion, it's like, but at any point in time, like it quite literally could be a flip. Like I don't know. Like I think I stand by the fact that I think Hokkaido's time to go was a while ago, and it just has kind of it quite literally has orphaned its way through a couple of weeks. Or it's like, yeah, someone else should probably go this week, or the votes just weren't there. This is tricky for me because I do not feel nearly as strongly as you guys do about this. So it's definitely an odd one. But this is how the podcast goes, and that is what happens. And thus, next week we'll be watching episode 11's, the penultimate episode for all of these. And then we will be deciding top 3, and then we'll be watching the final episode for everything. So we are getting down to the wire. And with that in mind, that'll be where we end this week's episode.